Hello, guys. Good evening, and welcome to today's event on Better Copper. Hi, Anita. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, Amaka? Hello.
I'm good,
Can you
and
hear
you?
me? I'm good. I'm so excited
All
for this
right.
evening.
Yes, I can hear you. I said I'm good, and you?
I'm good too. That's nice. That's good.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Mhm. Um.
All right, guys. So if you're on
All
the call,
right.
go ahead and remind your phone. Hello,
Yes, I can hear you, Amaka.
Anita.
I
You
can hear
speak.
you.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we're good to go, guys. So if you have any message, you can go ahead and invite your friends. Let's get started off with this session. So today we'll be talking about introduction to UI UX design and basically what it's about. Screen. Please go ahead to let me know that you can see my screen. So please, can anyone see my screen? Just let me know. I think I'd have to have this open on my other device so that I'll know if. All right, so I believe everyone can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, please go ahead and drop a message in the comment section. So all right, so I can go ahead. So I'll start off by giving a brief introduction about myself. My name is Wamaka Wonsu. I am a product designer, a co-founder at Top Universe, as well as the CEO of Better Copper. So basically, I am a seasoned professional who is about creating outstanding user experience and trying to bridge the gap between technology and education and making sure that we have we bridge that gap and create that interest between technology and education. I'm also a huge supporter of the ed tech, where we talk about the educational technology aspect, and I believe we can harness these platforms to make sure that digital education is accessible to everyone. So on for me, let's start with introduction. So I will start with this particular quote because I like it. It's more about saying a design is a plan for arrangement elements in such a way as best as to accomplish a particular purpose. Yes. So this is just for me is anything you have to design is you are solving a particular problem, and that's why we're saying design is arranging elements in such a way it accomplish purpose. I see it as if you're not creating something to solve a problem, I don't know what you're creating, but this is what this means to me. It might mean something else to you. So basically, we'll talk about UI UX. When you hear UI UX, we really most times you don't even get the full meaning. So I'll start by saying UI is usually user interface, UX is usually user experience. It is what it is: user experience, user interface, UI UX. Then I'll start off by defining what this word means. So most times when we hear think design, we're tempted to say, design is you have to put colors here, you have to do this, you have to do that. But when we are now referring back to UI UX design, for me, it's what I say, like, these are basically my opinion to the way I see things. I would say design is a way of improving on things that are already existing and solving problems. Now, before you get started with your UI UX design journey, there's something I would want you to keep in mind. And I think these are the things I've listed here as well. So, design isn't about originality. Every design, every masterpiece you have seen has been thought out by one or two people Two people can have exactly the same idea, nothing changes, but it's just about who brings it out first. Then two, designers are not consumers. There's this tendency to want to think that, oh, okay, I'm a consumer, I'm this and that. Most times, the way you see things is different from what and how a consumer will see it because of how they look at it. You see things differently than other people. Then the next one, I'll say designers are compassionate. Now, to explain this, if you're not compassionate about solving a problem, if you're not compassionate or have empathy for people, sometimes understanding how to design and make things work for people might be taxing and breathtaking to you. So most times you have to be compassionate to understand how do people see this thing? How can I put myself in their shoes to explain what is going on or to help them out? Then I'll say design is not a stage of a project, it is a component of it. So design is ever continuous, it's ever iterating because you can't put an end to design. What we designed yesterday, you might wake up today and find out that that is not what you intended to. So you have to improve on it. It's always a continuous part of a project. Design doesn't stop, it just keeps on going. Now, design simplicity does not mean minimalism. Here we say, okay, it's minimal. I don't want a lot of things in the space. But why are we going for this minimal stuff? Why don't we want a lot of things happening in that space? So now, I will go into this thing properly. So we say user interface UI. How best can I interpret UI? I would describe it as the skin of a product, what you see, how you feel things, how they look like. It's just the same way you see your bottle, the way your water bottle is formed, the visual elements, how they made the cover, why does it have this write up telling me whether it's 1 liter, 2 liter. So basically, UI is just basically about the visual element of a product. Just when you're looking at, just the same way you look at any mobile app or any product you have to interact with. That visual element you can see the design, the buttons, the menus, how the icon is, the shape. That is just UI for you. So most times UI seeks to answer things like if you're thinking about user interface, like what is the user seeing? How is the user going to perceive this? We're saying that UI seeks to answer questions like, is this visually appealing? If I'm creating something, why do I want people to have a look on it? If I'm making this app, is it going to make it visually appealing so that people will be able to use it without thinking so much about it? And then what are the interactive elements like? How am I going to design it so that it's easy to use? It's just like when you have the navigation menu on your phone. I'm going to use that because it's something everybody can relate with. So when you see the navigation menu like at the bottom of your phone, it's easy for you to understand. So it's something you have to think about. Okay, if I'm using these icons, are my users going to be able to understand it when they see it? Because now we're saying that UI is the feel, what people see, how they interact with a particular thing. So you're going to have to answer that questions. For the elements that are being used in the UI, is it going to be easy to understand? What should I look out for to ensure that this content are logically organized? So that's what you have to consider when you look at the UI aspect of design. Then now moving on, when we have to talk about the user experience. Now, while UI focuses on the aesthetics, the color, the buttons, and all of that, UX is more about the journey within a product, like the feel. How does this work for me? Am I moving point from how is the user going to move from point A to point B? How am I going to make it seamless? How am I going to make it interesting? How are they going to consider the flow of the app? Where and how do they move forward? That's what UX is about. It's more about guiding an experience. I'm saying, okay, I want you to come and visit me, or I want you to meet up with somebody. One thing I have to put in consideration is this: how do I get to where I'm going to, or how does anyone coming to visit me get to me? The process it to take the person to get to me is more like the experience. So it's just the same way you have on an app. The way you would send your messages on WhatsApp, locate status, update a status, that is basically the user journey. Somehow what you do in this part is you think out the possible steps a user can take. So you make that into a flow so that at the end of the day, by the time they are done seeing the aesthetics, which is the UI part of it, they're able to flow with this app and not feel like I don't understand what is going on, or this is overwhelming for me. So user experience is about creating a flow for the app, making sure that the journey within a digital product, it's very seamless, it's intuitive, and it's quite straightforward. So having said that, you now say, so you would like to ask, what does UX actually address? What questions does it answer? Now, UX basically answers the question like, how should a user navigate from product A to product B? So you're saying, I want to upload a status on WhatsApp, for example. So how does this work? Do they go from opening their profile to seeing a menu, or is there something that shows them that okay, I'm going from my messages to profile or to updates? So you just that flow has to be created so that they know that okay, if I move from here, once I go to the settings, I'll see a status button and I get to upload my status. So you have to create that flow. You're going to ask yourself what information should be present, because you don't just start designing and start thinking out okay, what information is this app going to have, what am I going to be able, what information am I presenting, what is a user going to see, and how are they going to meet this user's need. So you're saying okay, it's meeting this need, it's meeting that need. Are we moving from point A to point B? What is everything possible a user can look for in this particular app? Just the way you have your e-commerce brand. So they make it in such a way that okay, anything this person wants that's related to e-commerce, I believe it should be here. Then how should the experience be? You know, there are some apps that once you open it, you just tell yourself that this is not for you. You close it. The reason you close it is not because like you're not feeling the app, it's not because like it's overwhelming. You're doing that because you feel like this is so not for me. Like this is too much of an information. I don't even understand what is going on and it's going to stress me. So that's why I won't do that. So I'll close the app. So now we have established that UI and UX mean two different things. What they portray are totally different from each other, even though they influence each other, because one way UI cannot do without UX and UX cannot do without UI. There is always, they have a meeting point for each other. So there's where they get to intersect and work together. So that brings us to this part where we're saying, how does UI influence UX? Now, there are so many ways the UI will impact on UX. When we say that, we're saying a clean UI can help enhance user experience, because something that is neatly designed, something that is easy to understand. Like the labeling on the app is on point, it's aesthetical pleasing, the visuals make the journey enjoyable. It's just the way you get to scroll on your social media apps. Like the minute you start scrolling, you don't most times you don't want to stop, because you see things that are very pleasing to you, they are very interesting, and then you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So that's just the UI impact of that design. It means that the UI has given the experience how the user is going to flow, this pleasing sight that the users just want to see what is going on, they want to see what's happening. It's just like the same way when you watch a movie. Somehow, apart from the characters you get to see in the movie, sometimes you might just be fascinated about their clothes. Like, why do they have this on? Like, why is this person the best dresser in this movie? And somehow, because of that person, UI comes to play here. Then you're now also looking, okay, well, what is UX influence? We said UX is about creating a smooth user experience. So now that your UI is smooth, your UI is good and it's working, it means that the user experience, which is the UX, has to align with the user's need, because you can have a wonderful design and yet it does not align with what your users want. So you have created a beautiful design for a pleasing product, right? You now have to create a good flow to work with it, because you can't say you are solving the problem of getting workmen or something like that, and then your app is not is showing us how to shop for products, you're not solving a problem that way. So if we're creating a smooth user experience, we're saying that okay, this is good, this is how we want it to be, and this is how it should be. So we have created that flow that okay, the UI has done its part. Now it's now time for the UX to direct how the UI works, and this is beautiful. So that's where you even come to think about where we have responsive design. So what is responsive design? How is this working? Is this adjustable on all devices? The ability for you to open a website on your mobile phone and it just flows tells you a lot about the UI design, like the UI design, because okay, I have this design, I've created a flow. So whether the user is opening it on a tab, on a website, on a phone or a mobile device, you should just be able to adapt piece like easily without stress. And then we're moving on to key insights. So when you talk about UI UX and certain things, there's certain things you have to consider basically about design. And for me, there are a lot of things, but I would love to consider these five. Reason being that they are very important for me and basically for anyone coming into design. So we have usability, we have accessibility, we have visual hierarchy, we have consistency, we have feedback, and user flow. So guys, I would pause here, let it not be like I'm rushing or I'm running. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat sessions. I would pick them up, at least I would pause to pick them up. So feel free to drop a message at any point in time to interrupt me so that I would answer your questions before I continue. So now we're talking about usability. Usability is the ability for you to use a product. So we're saying, is it going to be friendly? Is it usable? So when you say something is usable, is it going to be used to achieve a particular goal or not? Now I would give this illustration where you have a mug and where you have like a glass cup. Now, the two items here are very usable, but they serve different purposes. You can't serve hot tea inside a glass cup because you won't be able to hold it. It has no handle for you to use to hold the glass cup. But you can serve tea inside the mug. Reason being that it's easy for you to pick it up from the mug. It's easy for you to look at the mug and tell yourself that, okay, I would be able to hold it, right? This shouldn't be hard for me. So when you say usability, we're not saying, okay, this product is able to achieve their goals on this as well. So please give me a minute. So we're saying that sorry about that, apologies. We're saying that can the users use this to achieve a goal and all of that. So next we'll move on to it. We're still on usability. So things you should note about usability. When you say a product is usable, it means it is intuitive, meaning it should serve the purpose. When the user sees the product, they should be able to understand what is there to serve without extensive tutorials or without a lot of exam explanation or guidance. They should just know that okay, I'm looking at a cup, I'm looking at a mug, I'm looking at a water bottle. At least I know what this serves. I don't have to think so much. I already know what they do. Or I'm looking at this app. I'm here on an e-commerce app. This is what it should do. So it should be easy to understand. Then we'll move on to say we'll also discuss that is it efficient, that can it allow user do their tasks quickly with minimal effort. So I'm on the app, I want to shop for something. How is this going to help me? So is it very straightforward that all I have to do is just look at it and say, okay, I just have to move from here to here. I just have to select this item, then it's been added to cart and everything. So we try to create as less friction as possible when users are interacting with this app. We are saying effective. The next we're looking at is effective. Is this effective enough for me? Is this design enough for users to achieve their goals without having to think about a lot of things going on in their mind? Is it right? Is it what I need at the moment to get this done? Because we're saying that designs should be user friendly, should be intuitive, it should be simple to understand. So it should be effective. So I don't have to like think too much. I don't have to worry about what it is. This is the goal I want to achieve, and that is that. Next thing we'll look at is accessibility. Now, accessibility is one thing that is very important because we're saying that accessibility has to do with inclusivity, where we say no matter what the person is, no matter who the person is, they should be able to use an app and it should be accessible for them, no matter how they are, whether they are with abilities or disabilities, whether they are not, whether they have hearing problem or whatever it's wrong. Like I said earlier, abilities or disabilities, they should be able to use an app without stressing it so much. It is imperative that every app should be accessible to everyone and not just a selected persons. And some regions make it legal, so you can't create anything that is not intuitive. So you're saying I'm creating an app, you are going to be sure to create it such a way that even someone who is colorblind or sees normally will be able to access that app without stressing it so much. So one of the key things you have to consider for accessibility is design for all. When I say design for all, design for all, I mean that, okay, like I said, abilities or disabilities, everybody should use it, whether with visual or auditory impairment. There should be alternatives. That's why you get to I think there are some ATM machines where you get to thumbprint to withdraw. If you can't read, you just get to press what you feel and then you thumbprint to withdraw and all of that instead of putting a pin. Then it should be clear and adaptable. So text should be very eligible. We're saying that, okay, um no matter who opens it, it should be clear enough for anyone who wants to read it, right? I don't have to struggle to read a particular thing. I don't have to think so much. I just should be able to read it without thinking. The colors and contrast should be chosen so that we it accommodates everyone, especially visual impairments. So you don't get to choose too many bright colors. You get to make sure that whatever color you're using, everyone should see it clearly without struggling as well. Then next we'll move on to visual hierarchy. Now, sometimes you have to understand where you're moving from, right? What angle you want to go to. For example, I'm saying we're saying visual hierarchy is the act of like arranging elements on a screen. So when we say we're arranging elements on the screen, you're more or less guiding the user's attention. Are we moving from A to B? Are we moving from C to D? Where do we want to move from? How are we moving? How is this going to direct the user's face and lead their eye through their to the interface? So we now come to key aspects of visual hierarchy. Number one, make sure it's done intentionally. Now, if you look at this particular screen, your attention is drawn to certain part of it. We have the bold and the other parts that are smaller and everything. So what this does is basically draw your attention. We have importance of size and position. So when you talk about size and position, it's basically talking about how elements are perceived, how buttons are arranged, and all of that. So you're saying, okay, is this larger? Is it smaller? Are the buttons here? Should it be there? Should it be left aligned and all of that? Just like the same way you have this image on the screen, you're tempted to say, okay, this image draws your attention first before you even go ahead to look at the write up. So it's just that ability to direct the users, guide the users when they open an app. We have color and contrast. You can use colors to highlight what you want the user to see first. Are they supposed to see this object first? Are they supposed to see this right up first? You just basically use colors to contrast things so that you are able to guide the users through what you want them to see. Then we also have typographies. For typography, you're saying your choice of fonts, your styles, your sizes. That's what the text you use for your headings is different for the size is going to be different for what you use for subheadings is definitely going to be used for what different from what you use for body. But what you're doing here, you're trying to distinguish which one works best. So is it am I working this way? Is it supposed to be that way, right? That's what we are trying to achieve at this point. Then moving on, we're going to consistency, how to maintain uniformity and enhance user experience. So consistency is having the same thing throughout all your design pages. So what this does is that it's able to remind users that okay, this is how this thing is, this is how it works. It's the same reason you're able to identify brands because somehow you have noticed the brand color that okay, they use green. So it means that most anything that I see that has this green logo should belong to, for example, Better Copper itself. So this is Better Copper branding. This is what I want to see. So anytime I see it, I just relate to it because once a design is consistent, the users become very familiar with it that they don't have to think so much about what they want to do on the app. Just like if you use social media apps very well, nobody has to tell you this is where you want to go for this is where you go for this is where you want to go if you want to search, this is where you how you get people, this is how you connect to friends. You're already used to this, so connecting and working with it comes easily to you, and this is done because of consistency. You have used this over time, the design is good, and yeah, this works for me as well. Then one thing is aspects of consistency you should take note of. We have design patterns. Now each design has its own patterns. Everybody designs individually of the next party, but at a time when you get to follow laws and everything, you have to design in a way that is conventional, not to confuse users. Now, the way I see WhatsApp is different from the way I see Instagram and is different from the way I see X. The thing about these three apps is this that they all follow a pattern that it's not difficult to use. So users have built up this pattern about apps. So it means that every other social media app cannot just come up and say they want to use something different, because even if you're going to use something different that users are not used to, it might take a while for them to get used to it. So most times it's best advised that you just follow the patterns we have, and it makes it easy that way for users to flow with it, because this is no this is not this is not a backlash. It's just like saying someone who has used an Android all their life and then they are moving to iOS. At first it might be confusing because they have understood how Android work, and then this is iOS here obviously, so it has its differences. So it might take them a while to get used to it. So that's why design patterns are important. We're looking at branding and styling. So maintaining consistent branding, like I said earlier, which includes logo, color schemes, and typography. Once a brand is being associated with a particular color scheme, is associated with a particular color, with associated with a particular thing, you don't need to think too much. Just remember probably hearing their jingle or probably seeing their product. It's easy for you to say, okay, this is it. You don't think it's just what it is. Then behavior and interactions, just how buttons should be, how interactive the elements will be, how users should be able to predict it. If you are as a designer, maybe when you start using design apps or design tools, you find out that most of these tools are very alike. So somehow you can predict another one, and it doesn't take you time for you to learn another tool because they are similar and they just have few differences. Then moving on, I would like to speak on feedback. So there's something I said at the beginning when we started, that designers are compassionate. It has to do with feedbacks, basically. So once you start getting feedback about a particular problem and you're trying to solve it, it enables you determine how to separate the UI, UX, or the UX in this case. Enables you tell that, okay, I did this to solve a particular problem, but at the moment it's not solving this problem. So it means that I have to make changes to continue. And also, if you remember when we started, I said that design is not a component of the project, it is part of the project itself. So for every feedback you get, you have to look at it closely if it's something that should be implemented, because you're trying to solve a particular problem. So feedback is very important. It helps you tell you that, okay, this is what should be done, this is not what should be done. Because, like we said, designers are not consumers. So it might be a little bit difficult as a designer for you to point out certain things because you're seeing it from an angle. A consumer or a user is seeing it from an angle that affects them more. So it's more easier for them to relate to you. Then you look at it and then iterate on your design and give it this flow that it needs. So moving on, we can say feedback mechanisms like, are we going, what information are we receiving, what cues should be added to this app. I believe you might have opened a website or a new app and then you see something like, you see all these small pop-ups that tell you, let's take you on a tour. So what this is doing is, it's interacting with users, it's showing them around so that at least they get to understand it and move around without stress. Then also it's guide directing a clear user flow or a clear path, so it removes confusion and help them see that, okay, this is what I should do, this is what I should do, this is not how it should work. So please work on this part, make this better. Most times feedbacks are important because if you have more than 10 people complaining about something, it means something is wrong and then it should be looked at really and see how to make that better as well. Then design process now. So design process takes a lot of things, right? We're saying, what are the design process, what do we expect to achieve at the end of the day, um what is the major thing that brings about UI UX? How do we get the user interface? How do we get the user research to help us build the user interface and all of that? So things that bring about UI UX to happen in real life is research. Now, at this point, you are trying to understand what the user need is. You're trying to understand their process. You're trying to solve a particular problem. So you have to conduct market research and all of that. Research tells you that, okay, this is the problem users are facing, and this is how it should be solved. At the beginning of the class, I mentioned that most times design isn't about really originality. Sometimes you have to work on an existing design to make it better. Because in the process of researching, you might find out that what you're trying to solve, someone else has already solved it. But then you go back and look at what they have solved and ask yourself, what is still wrong with this thing? And that's why you are conducting that research. So you are able to build up on someone else's research. But what you have done is that you have improved on it and you have made it better than what it was before. Then wireframing is where you get to let's just say, sketch out what the designs you feel would work and get out the layout so that at the end of the day, you know that, okay, this is how I believe this should work. It's basically sketching with a pen and paper or choosing to sketch using a design school tool, but any of them works. So you're just creating layout and say, okay, this should work. You have your designs ready. You're more or less trying to understand the flow, connecting your login page to your sign up page. Then you have to connect, forget password to getting a new password and all of that. The process of linking these various screens together, from onboarding screen to sign up to log in to forget password to home page, it's basically how you build an interactive model to test functionalities. Because once you have prototype, you can go ahead to start testing it with your users. testing the product with users, see how they behave with the product, see whether it's working for them, see how best to make it better for them. Then iteration is a continuous product and process. You don't stop iterating on a product, you keep building on it. So you cannot say I am done designing this and this is it, this is the end of it. No, over and over again you have been told to update the app. It's not because like they should be done, it should be they should be done, like, more like yeah and amen. It's more like because they realize that there are some features that this app needs that is missing. So what they do is instead of taking it down, they just make changes, push it out there, then you have to update your app and see these changes. Most times these changes are for the good of the user and then to simplify how the product works. Then here I will move over to tools. But before I start talking about the tools you might encounter as a UI UX designer, I would like to check if you have dropped any questions for me. So if you have any question, please go ahead and drop the question. I can't see any question here. So guys, please go ahead and drop your questions. Thank you so much. So was saying some tools you might use is I'll start off with design tools, right? We have Figma. Figma is a popular tool. We have InVision as well. We have Adobe XD. We have Lunacy. These are some of the popular design tools you might come across or you might encounter. There are a whole lot more, but I chose to just show these few ones so that you know that you don't have one tool. And then I would say that a tool does not define the designer defines the tool itself. So no matter what tool you're using, you still end up achieving the same process at the end of the day. Okay. So okay, I think there was a mix up here. So now we're going to talk of collaboration tools, workflow, and productivity. So this is collaboration tools. Collaboration tools, we have Jira, we have JetBrains Space, we have Discord, we have Slack. Now basically these tools are for you to interact with your users or with people you work with basically. So once you get into tech, know that there are going to be a lot of tools you'll be introduced to. Reason being that these tools are very important to what you intend to achieve at the end of the day. So they are very easy to get used to. If you have not heard them before, you can take note of them and start having a look at them. We also have Coemo, Mirror, FigJam, and Whimsica. So these tools are on point. They help you achieve what you want to achieve and get straight to business without delay. Then moving on, we have productivity. So for productivities, this is a tool that helps you achieve what you intend to do. For Notion, you get to just put all your notes on Notion, arrange your documentation. Trello is more like a task manager to know that okay, this is what I'm doing today, this is not what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed I should move from this point to point B. Evernote is for keeping track of what you're supposed to do. Todoist is just to help you manage your tasks and productivity so that it does not become overwhelming and you know how best to work. Now, we spoke about this class is basically about UI UX design, and we're saying what recommendations can I give. So, one thing you should know about design is there are so many things you can read, so many things that can help you if you're not certain that you want to become a UI UX designer. But I believe these tools should help you or I said to sorry about that. I believe these books should help you. So you can go ahead and read the design of everyday things. This is very, very interesting. It talks about things you have encountered, things around you and how they relate to design. We have do make me think. There's a part I said sometimes you have to design things that are easy for users to pick up. They are very intuitive. They don't have to think so much about what it is. And don't make me think it's very important. 100 things every designer needs to know about people. Now, designing UX basically is about understanding how people move from one place to another, what experience are you trying to create, and this is a must read. Very, very interesting book as well. We have designing visuals, interface. Like when I read this book, I knew that yes, something must change basically. So it's very important for visuals, even if you won't be fully focused on UI, but you have to understand how visuals work and how best you can use them to relate to users. Then we have lean UX. So one thing this book taught me is there are certain principles and things that can make your experience beautiful and make you do stuff that's very straightforward. Like it's more like I don't need a robust, I don't need to use 20 to 30 principles to achieve a particular user experience. I can go as far as using two or three and I have what I want. So please read this book too. It's very needed. Then I can give you recommendation for YouTube channels you can watch so that they teach you stuff about design. I have Flux Academy, I have Top Universe, then Better Copper itself. We know that Better Copper is a platform for teaching tech skills, so you can actually pick a course here and learn. We have the Future, we have Musico, NN Group, and the likes. Then we have recommended training platforms that will train you to achieve that particular goal. We have interaction design. We have Better Copper training platform. You have Top Universe. You have Google. You have UXL. Then podcasts. So we have so many podcasts that talk about UX, that talk about UI, UX. I would say these are my best recommendations because I listen to them as well. We have the UX podcast. We have What is Wrong with UX. I like that one in particular. UI Breakfast. It's very, very, very interesting because it allows you think about, visualize UI basically. Then the future is a whole lot of things combined together, but they talk about design as well. Then we have design vibes. So I would end on this particular note. So guys, if you have any question concerning design or anything, please go ahead and drop those questions. So I will end with this. So 10 principles of design you have to keep in mind. That's diagram RAM, 10 principles of design. Good design is innovative. Good design makes a product useful. Good design is aesthetics. It makes a product understandable. It is unobtrusive. It is honest. It is long lasting and it is thoroughly detailed to the last detail. It is environmental friendly and it involves little design as possible. For me, I live by these principles basically, and I work by these principles in design. Everything has to be innovative. You don't want something that's not solving a problem. It has to be very innovative, it has to be understandable, it has to be honest and long lasting. So if you can keep abide with these 10 laws or as many as you can, this would also help you in your design journey. And we are here. Q&A. I hope I didn't rush you through. I hope I wasn't very fast. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them and I will pick them from here. And if you joined late, sorry about that. This session was supposed to last for just 1 hour and we've talked a lot. So if you have any questions regarding UI, UX, what's something that product design, product design, just go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. So I'll give you about 1 minute to do that. If there are no questions, I can move on and wrap this teaching. Thank you. So guys, I'm expecting your questions. I believe we should have a lot of questions. So please ask your questions. So while I'm waiting for you to ask your questions, let's have music in the background. So guys, ask your questions. What questions do you have regarding UI UX design? Are you feeling it is not your best field? Are you feeling it's too much of everything for you? Please go ahead and drop your questions, and I'll do well to answer them to the best of my ability. So since there are no questions at the moment, I'd like to move on. So thank you. Okay, this is my last page basically. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for listening to me. Apologies about that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions about UI UX, please let me know and I would answer your questions accordingly. So I would just go ahead to give a brief recap. Okay. Can you hear me? So I'll give a brief recap. Today we basically talk about introduction to UI UX, what it's about, how best to become a designer, what you should have in mind as a designer, and principles to follow, the differences between UI UX, how they influence each other. Talked about productivity tools, collaboration tools, workflow. We also talked about the design process and all of that feedback. We talked about accessibility, visibility, consistency, visual hierarchy. Yeah, we talked about influence of UI on UX. We talked about their different meanings and how they intersect each other. And to end this particular session, I'm going to end again with this particular quote that says, "Design is a plan for arranging elements in such a way as best as they can accomplish a particular purpose." So, as designers, I don't know, can anyone still hear me? So, so basically, as designers, we know that we're not just throwing things around, we're having this design to accomplish a particular goal, to solve a particular problem, and to make the world easy to live in as well. So that will be all for tonight. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop your questions. I would take them up. We have about 7 minutes more. So guys, if you have any question about UI UX design, go ahead and drop your questions. Let me pick them up and we can wrap up the session. So that will be all for me. This is basically an introductory session. So once it's 6:55, if there are no questions, we can call it a night. I'll just talk briefly about Beta Copper. I think I should have someone here, but no problem. So I should just talk briefly about Beta Copper. So what is Beta Copper? Beta Copper is an edtech platform where we train individuals in digital and tech skills to help them bridge the gap and secure the goal for the future. So for us, we feel like education, tech education should be very affordable and accessible to all, and that's what we're doing at Beta Copper. We also offer crash courses, which helps bring you up to speed about any particular tool or material itself. We have micro degree courses that span for a period of 3 months as well. So, based on what you want to learn, feel free to visit the Beta Copper website. I think the link should be in the chat. And if there are no questions about UI UX design, I would like to call it a night. Thank you so much for joining the session. Have a lovely evening. Okay, I think I have someone here. As I think that's all for tonight for me. Hi, and hi, Anita.
Hi, yeah. It has been such an informative session. I've learned. I've learned so much about UI UX. Thank you so much, Amaka, for this session. Yeah. You know?
Okay, so I think
Can you hear me? Yes.
that Copa. I'll see you next time. I think we have an event coming up 2 weeks from now. Go ahead, visit our website and check out those events. We have some free courses on our YouTube channel, so you can also. And that will be all of my end. Have a lovely night, morning or afternoon, wherever your time zone is. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Anita.